What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. Now on Saturdays, I like to go back through the week of Newswave and see what you guys had to say based on the different topics that we talked about. It's a lot of fun to see what everyone was thinking as we went through the week of Newswave. And of course, I am going to start today with a little bit of news, but first we do have that giveaway for the Hob Custom Nintendo Switch. There's a link below, and it is on Twitter. If you want to sign up, you can do that there. Thanks again to Panic Button and Perfect World Entertainment for providing the Switch for the giveaway. Pretty cool stuff there. Awesome custom piece, obviously, for the collection or for a first-time Switch owner. We're going to start today with Jedi the Fallen Order because it is, of course, being announced later on today. It's already been announced, but it's technically being revealed fully, and people are very, very excited. We just got the Episode 9 trailer yesterday. It looks really awesome, has some really cool things to look forward to. Tons of speculation right now from Star Wars fans, and now we're going to find out a bit more about Jedi the Fallen Order, and people are, of course, hesitant to get excited about this, and I get it, because EA is there, and if there's one thing EA is good about, they're good about jamming microtransactions in, live services, all this stuff. Maybe not with Jedi Fallen Order, and it might get you a bit more hyped. Of course, you can check it out this afternoon. It's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll be able to tune into their stream. It's a big panel they're going to do and show off parts of the game, so it's exciting stuff. But check some of these tweets out. I'm going to hit you with one here, because yesterday they went on a campaign, and the campaign was no microtransactions. For example, you can see right here Ben Walk, who actually works at DICE, saying survived Order 66, single player story, no multiplayer, no microtransactions. Then others from Respawn also chimed in similar thoughts, no microtransactions and everything. They even did it on a live stream that was going on at the time for the Star Wars Celebration. So we're now heading into this announcement that we're going to see later on today. And it sounds like this is going to be a story-driven single-player game that does not have microtransactions, loot boxes, everything that people are concerned that EA will get involved and do. And this is going to be interesting because this could, of course, actually have something good from EA come out that isn't possibly run by EA. Now, this is Respawn. I have complete confidence in Respawn when it comes to doing something like a campaign for Titanfall 2, for example. So I think it's going to be good. We have to see it, but the fact that it sounds like EA is fairly hands-off with this whole thing is what really intrigues me. We're going to talk about this a little more as we go through with some of your comments, but I'm really looking forward to that panel later on today. And starting the week off on Monday, we talked about Bethesda selling Wolfenstein Youngblood on Switch in stores without a cartridge in the box. It seems that the game will only be digital, and you'll get just an empty box if bought physically, with, of course, a download code. Swifty says, first game manuals, now game cartridges / discs. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out there. It's not just the cartridges. The Xbox One, of course, sold Cuphead, PUBG. They were just download codes in box. I think we even saw it with, like, San Andreas at one point. I think even that, believe it or not, was just a code in a box. So it isn't like the first time or anything, just have a code in the box. And of course, probably more or less reflects the cartridge cost still being kind of high for Switch. This is the way it is. It was a $30 release. Not like they could even make the money back on the $60, so they had to decide. Honestly, just put it out digitally. I know some people will say, well, I get the case, but I don't know. It feels weird to buy a code in the box. I thought the same thing for Cuphead, so that's why I'm really happy to hear that they are getting a physical, full-on release for the Xbox One and the Switch, I believe, later on this year. So exciting stuff there. But you mentioned game manuals. Those went away, right? We lost game manuals. And I thought about that and I said, man, that is a real shame to lose game manuals. But of course, we'll always have the disc or the cartridge in some form, I'm sure. And then the digital age started to take over. And now I think we're still going to have, you know, cartridges and discs next generation. But honestly, the follow-up generation, you know, 10 years from now, I don't know if you're going to go to a store and buy a game anymore. I think it might just be a digital thing, which would, of course, mean that limited run games, for example, will be booming with business, I assume, because indie devs are going the opposite. They release it digitally, and then they work as hard as they can to get a physical copy out on shelves. But I don't know, I'm telling you. I think we started with the game manuals. Now we're getting to the point where the cartridges and the discs just aren't there anymore. And at that point, you don't even have box art, you don't have anything. You just go to the PlayStation Store, the Nintendo eShop, or Microsoft's store, and you just buy it there, and that's it. Tuesday, we saw some new footage appear online for Mario 64 in its beta form, showing some interesting changes and funny sound effects. We also talked about Bluepoint and their current project that appears to be bigger than the work they did with Shadow of the Colossus. Eileen says, I wouldn't mind having a remake of Folklore or even Heavenly Sword. from Bluepoint. Wow, you pulled out Folklore. I forgot about that game on the PS3. That came out in like mid 2007, I think. I remember it wasn't that long after the PlayStation 3 came out. It was like an action adventure style game. It was very different, very weird. But would they have Bluepoint do that? Maybe. I mean, I believe that's a Sony product. That's one that they could kind of really reach back and grab and bring to the forefront there and have it fully done. I question the selling power of that title. I think it's one that some people would remember, but not everyone. I think a lot of people would be like, what is Folklore? Is that a new game? I think that would happen. Whereas Shadow of the Colossus, a lot of people knew that game, obviously. Everyone pretty much knew it. So if they go get Demon Souls, a lot of people know Demon Souls. Everyone knows Metal Gear Solid. I just threw that one in there just for fun. It's most likely, I think, going to be Demon Souls. But hey, you never know. And I do think they're going to have an announcement for that probably this year, I guess. I mean, I wanted to say E3, and technically they're not owned by Sony or anything. So I believe they could just make the game for anything they want, so who knows. I do think Sony is working with them on this game, though, so most likely it's going to be a PlayStation game, but I mean, technically it could be a game for all platforms. Interesting stuff there, because with Bluepoint, I don't think anything's off the table. They're willing to really take a challenge and bring something really good out. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus was great, so they've done some good work. Wednesday, we saw Nintendo strangely leak Stage Builder for Smash Bros. Ultimate in a trailer that was randomly released on Twitter. We also talked a bit more about Jedi Fallen Order and EA's potential to ruin the game. Dollman says your Switch game 10 years from now won't work. Most games 10 years from now are not going to work. Live service games, they just won't work probably like 10 years from now. A lot of games that received massive patches day one, like Black Ops 4, if you bought it physically, it had like a 50 gigabyte patch because they probably just delivered an entirely different game to you. But you do bring up the point of the cartridges that come out, even physically, will not work if those servers are not up to receive the data from. That is the problem. I wondered for a little while if we would even see a re-release for some of these games, if like the cartridge sizes and everything, if like they became cheaper and they did like some kind of platinum release or something and it's all on the cartridge. Probably not. And that is a concern for games that need the download. Like LA Noire, that will probably be like MAG, how that is on the PS3, that, by the way, doesn't work. It's a coaster. That'll probably be what LA Noire becomes. It becomes like a little cartridge coaster after, 10 years, 5 years maybe. Maybe by next gen it doesn't even work anymore. So that's something to think about, definitely. And it's not even just Switch games, it's a lot of games right now that rely on live services and massive day one patches, because we are going into the digital era, and after seeing what's going on now with Drive Club, makes you realize that none of these games are going to last very long compared to what we have with NES games that you can still take off your shelf and pop it in your system, despite most of them coming out in the 80s. Relia says, I love how people are upset with EA before they make a game or show any gameplay. This is exactly the level of skepticism they deserve. Don't expect to hear much about the microtransactions until closer to launch. Well, good news there, Relia. We did hear about microtransactions apparently not being in the game. I do think it's very funny, as you're saying here, the skepticism is absolutely warranted for EA because they've done nothing to give us any confidence in their ability not to put microtransactions in a game. It's all about monetization, obviously, but I think they have enough games to do that. They don't have to do it in every single game. They can put out a really good single-player, narrative-driven Star Wars game and sell 20 million copies, maybe more, with, again, the install size, and I feel like that's enough, I mean, they have only made 2 Star Wars games, and neither of them really seen critical acclaim at all. So why not put one out that you can hang your hat on and say, look, this Star Wars game was so good, it got a 93 on Metacritic, it's critically acclaimed, sold over 20 million copies, and you can show that to Disney, especially when it's time to re-up your deal. They need at least one to show them and say, look, we can do it. So think about that too, but skepticism warranted. We're going to see more about it today. I'm just very happy that there was a mini campaign on social media saying no microtransactions from all the people who work at DICE and Respawn and everything. Thursday, we saw an article published by Kotaku outlining the current issues surrounding Dragon Age 4. It is currently in development with problems around the Frostbite engine as well as communication problems within BioWare. Hey, you can also now change your PlayStation Network ID, but with a few risks involved. Mighty Link says all these BioWare games are failing, and EA can't figure out why. Should we switch to making a good single-player RPG? Nope, let's just keep doing live services. Again, hopefully today is it. Hopefully this is the time we actually see a good-looking single-player narrative-driven game from them, but it feels like we are really, I'm noticing this now, it feels like we've all been kicking EA pretty bad, especially this week. I mean, we kicked EA all the time now, obviously, but like BioWare, I just think BioWare has their own problems now. I think they're not the BioWare we used to know, and I think that's an issue for a lot of people because I don't think people want to admit that, but I really think BioWare has kind of lost its touch. It's just not BioWare technically. I mean, technically it is, but it's not BioWare that we remember, and EA is not helping the problem, right? Like I would have been very interested to see what would have happened if Anthem would have been Unreal Engine 4, right? And they didn't have all these weird development problems or anything. Would there have been more content at launch? Yes. Are they going to run into the same problem with Dragon Age? Maybe. I mean, Inquisition was at least good. People liked Inquisition. So if they build off of that and it's not heavily leaning into just live service, just because I think a live service Dragon Age could actually work, believe it or not. But if it's just, the problem EA has is they want everything to be a live service just to be a live service, not because the game itself calls for it. Like, I think Anthem, sure, that calls for a live service, yeah. But, like, when they do crazy stuff with some of their past things, like they wanted to make Battlefront this live service thing, right? And they did all this DLC and loot boxes and all this stuff. Probably didn't need to happen. That was trying to be a live service just to be a live service. Finally, on Friday, Octopath Traveler was announced to be heading to PC on Steam in June, and Star Wars Pinball will be heading to the Nintendo Switch later this year. Daniel Morris says, mods on Octopath could be great. So I didn't even think of mods on Octopath Traveler. Square's been pretty good about that. They seemed okay with it with things like Final Fantasy 15. And now that Octopath Traveler is heading to PC this summer, which is great. Actually, a lot of people are really excited for that. People seem really happy that Octopath Traveler is going to be going to PC, getting more money, obviously, for the studio, and letting them create something else. It's going to phones as well in Japan. So it seems like the Octopath IP is actually splitting and it's growing, which is great, because generally when IPs grow like that, that usually means there's a pretty good future for them, so look at that too. But Octopath Traveler going to PC, I think you will get a lot of people modding it. And here's the best part, it's not just going to the Epic Store, it's going to Steam, where, of course, it's a bit easier to distribute modifications and everything, and who knows, maybe Square will even lean into it. They could release their own tool set and everything. That would be amazing. Like, that would be really, really cool, because then you could have all kinds of stuff. New characters, new quests, new worlds, new visuals, graphics. Like, there's so much they could do there. And I think right now Octopath's already worth the money, but if you add the mod support into it, who knows what'll happen. So that's a great point. I didn't even think of having modifications or anything on there, but I was already going to get it on PC because I'm actually curious about a few things. One, I want to see what the minimum specs are for that, and maybe we can see how low we can get. Like, can we get it onto a laptop that doesn't even have a video card? And that way, if you're like watching it and you think, oh, my laptop's not that great, I don't technically have access to a Switch, but you realize that your laptop can at least run it because it has decent enough specs, like integrated visuals and everything, that'll still work. That's something I want to check out. But with mod support, just more of a reason to pick it up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for the Saturday show. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, especially Jedi Fallen Order. Leave your predictions down below if you think it's going to be something that releases without microtransactions and then has them added in later, because that's the thing people are still concerned about. It could still happen, but no multiplayer, full single player. I think we have something here. We just need to see what it's all about and how it looks, of course. And let me know what you think about Octopath Traveler with mods. What mods would you like to see added to Octopath Traveler, whether it's new quests, new modes, visuals, who knows. Cool stuff there. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.